Scott Bryson Beyond the Service. Tonight we're going to film episode 3 with a good friend of mine, Richie Wagner, former colleague, retired Secret Service. Just like Al Story and John Hamby, we're starting off with 3 rock stars, all former Secret Service agents. Richie, welcome to Scott Bryson Beyond the Service. How you doing, man? Yeah, you're looking good, brother. You looking spiffy. I'm looking like I'm ready to go chop wood. I should have dressed up.
I just kept my work clothes on.
Yeah. So tonight, what we're going to do, Richie, we've only done 2 of these, so we're still kind of in our infancy here, and Luke's keeping me in line. We're going to try to do this about an hour, maybe around an hour or so, and we're just going to kind of do it in little segments, kind of like our career, phase 1, 2, and 3. So we'll talk about. I'll let you introduce yourself, really, and where you're from, where you went to school, early life, having a family. What first job you might have had and things like that, and then we'll get into the service. So why don't you just introduce yourself and tell the folks a little bit about Richie Wagner?
All right, yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so my name's Richie Wagner, from a small coal mining town in West Virginia called Logan. Probably no one's ever heard of it. Very small town. Had maybe in the county, maybe 40,000 people. So town Logan, quick little history lesson. Everybody's probably heard of the Hatfield-McCoy feud. Well, the Hatfields are from Logan County, and the head of the Hatfields, Devil Hands, is buried in Logan. So there's your bit of Logan, West Virginia trivia. So grew up there, basically just played ball my whole life, and family. Graduated from Logan High School, obviously, and I was a basketball freak. All I wanted to do is play basketball. It's the only thing I ever wanted to do growing up. And eventually I realized that wasn't going to happen for a 5'9" or 5'10", 11 white kid that was slow and couldn't jump. So kind of transitioned. I always played baseball, but it's never really a passion. But a friend of mine who also played basketball went to another school, or got a scholarship to a school in Tennessee, and his dad and my dad were friends, and they played softball. And he told me, he said, hey, you should go down this school and try out. They got a new baseball coach, and said, hey, they're looking for people. So I went down, tried it out. Coach liked me. Ended up going to school down there, King College, in Bristol, Tennessee. It's called Bristol University now. Got a 4-year degree in business. Got engaged to my wife after I graduated. And after I graduated, I thought I was going to play professional sports, baseball. It didn't happen. And kind of didn't have a plan. So I had some cousins that lived in Dallas. He told me, said, hey, you should come out here and see if you can find a job out here. So I went out there, and this is back in '93, big recession, so not a lot of hiring going on. I went out there and found a couple jobs that really weren't what I was looking for. And then after 5-6 months, I came back to West Virginia. Got a job in retail. I was manager of the auto parts store. And after about 6 months or so, 10 months, whatever, I knew this wasn't for me. And my mom, was helping me, say, hey, trying to help me, figure out which way I want to go. And West Virginia State Police was hiring, or they were doing testing to hire at the time. I said, you should try that. I said, you know what, that's I know troopers don't make much, and what I was doing at the time wasn't making much either. So I said, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Well, I went and tested, and I failed their tests by like 10 points. They give you a video test. It's based on someone who's already a police officer, and you had to score like 180 points, whatever the scoring system was. I'd get like 170. And the thing about it was any police officer in West Virginia goes through the West Virginia State Police training academy. So county sheriffs, most city departments always go through state police academy. And, those guys just coach. They know kind of who they want. And, they'll say, hey, you guys need to come try out because we're looking for guys. So after I failed the first time, I said, all right, I kind of got it now. And I'll go do some studying, and next time they test, I'll be ready. Well, they went to a hiring freeze for like 2.5 years. So I thought, all right, I'm stuck here for a while. And then eventually, when I was, running this auto part, I was actually assistant manager.
Luke, should
I
we
got
stop? Should we stop?
to manager, and still wasn't my thing. So after 2.5 years, not 2.5 years, the state police did another test, and same thing. I failed it again. Same thing, missed about like 10 points, and said, all right, well, forget this. So I just started shotgunning applications everywhere. Applied to a couple county sheriff's department, federal, FBI, marshals, DEA, ATF, and honestly, never even thought about Secret Service. When I went to get the ATF application, they were in a bank building, they were in the federal building, and they were on the ninth floor of this bank building. And when I went to get it, I get it and hit the elevator button to go down, and went into the directory, and Secret Service happened to be on the same floor in the same building. I'm like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. So we got one and applied, and that's how I kind of got with the service.
So what year did you actually apply, and then how long did it take you to get hired? Because it took me 2.5 years back in the 90s.
I applied 96, I think, near the end of 96, and it took about a year and a half.
So that's back when we were under the Department of the Treasury, and it was called the TEA, or the Treasury exam. And testing's never really been my forte. So I, much like yourself, I had some issues with the North Carolina State Highway Patrol, which is I could do an hour on that one topic alone. But this isn't my interview. And then I applied for the Secret Service, and I failed the Treasury exam by a little bit, a point or two, I don't remember. And back then you had to wait a year to retest. So it took me 2.5 years because I failed the test.
Yeah. No, I get it. And, most everybody our vintage is saying, like a year and a half, 2.5 years, something like that. Whereas nowadays it's, they can process people nowadays 10 months.
Yeah.
Or less, depending on whether they want the person or not. Or
Yeah.
I don't want to get into it now, but when I was at WFO, I was working. They call it the SISD squad. It wasn't unusual for us to get a call from headquarters saying, they got a class open at Flexi. They got 23 people. They need one more to fill the class, and they just throw us a name, say, hey, this guy needs this done by the end of the week. Like a background and a poly and medical, all done from Monday to Friday, no week long. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a friend of mine. Um, you probably know him. He's retired as well, but I think his name is Scott. He started with me in the Charlotte field office years ago. And he lives, I think he still lives in the same neighborhood you live in. But anyway, he got processed in like 4 months or 6 months, something stupid. So they obviously were hot to trot for him. And he had been a police officer. And that was a few years after we came on, but I think like late 90s, early 2000s, that's the fastest I'd ever heard. But like nowadays, I know it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's probably faster when I was in WFO, but yeah, it's the days of year and a half to 2.5 years are gone.
Yeah. So, all right. So you get on with the Secret Service. Where did you start?
Well, let me before we get there, I want to kind of touch on the offer, which was funny.
Okay.
The rack at the time was a guy named Mike Davis, different Mike Davis from what Andy was talking about last week. This guy came out of Miami. He was pretty hardcore,
Uh-huh.
but he called me up He says, I got good news, I got bad news.
Oh boy.
Good news is we're hiring you. The bad news is we're sending you to Charleston or to Chicago. And I was so jacked up at the time when he told me he's hiring. I said, if he said we're opening office in hell and you're our guy, I'd have been okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was so happy to hire.
Oh my goodness.
But once he told me Chicago, and I was good with it, he said, okay. That's the answer I wanted to hear. Said, but I got better news. You're staying here in Charleston, so that was good.
Oh, so he was just messing with you.
Yeah, he just wanted to see my reactions.
Okay.
You know,
If you really wanted the job.
I really wanted, or if I was really mad because I wasn't staying.
Yeah, that's good.
So I got there, and I was in Charleston for about 4 years. Charleston, West Virginia is a pretty small office. It was a ranking forward. So we kind of did everything: protection, investigations. There were no squads in West Virginia. It was your rotation, your weekend rotation, whatever case that came up, you got it. Of course, maybe new. I would get my case, but first 2, 3 years were pretty much all investigations. The only protection I get was scan a post online. I was never doing any advances. But about the last year was the 2000 election, Bush Gore, and that was the year. 1 year that West Virginia was a battleground state. So we got tons of visits. Bush here, Gore there, Cheney here. At the time, we were just running ragged. I mean, usually during campaign years, we fell into Pittsburgh, so we were always supporting Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh's not a huge office. They got a RAC and ASAC and usually 10 to 12. But for whatever reason, they lost a lot of people as well, either through uh, retirements or people going to detail for their detail time. So they were down to a SAC and 4. So it was between them and us, we had a RAC, a SAC, and 8 agents. Mm. So we were just running ragged. 2000. It was just go from one city to one city to one city, and we never went to stand post or never worked a shift. It was always doing advance in some city, either us going up to Pittsburgh to help them out, or Pittsburgh coming down to West Virginia helping out. So that was a rough year. So after that was over, I'm still actually in my phase 1 time, but I don't know if you can remember back then they put out a memo that they were wanting volunteers to go to WFO. I think it was LA and San Francisco, and each district had to give up somebody. So usually usually Pittsburgh, whenever they get something that they don't want to do, they'll throw it down to Charleston. Hey, you guys got to do this. You guys. So I knew we were going to have to go to DC eventually at some point. So I talked to LaDonna and said, hey, we're gonna end up there. Why don't I just get the clock started? So she said, yeah, and I volunteered for WFO and transferred up there. Was in WFO for 2 years. Did a lot of protection. I got lucky. I was there in one of their investigative squads for about 2 months, and the rest of the time I was either in one of the protection squads or protection ops or something to do with protection for the next year and 10 months. So I was in WFO for 2 years. So my whole phase 1 time was 4 in Charleston and 2 in WFO for 6.
So you basically did about 6 years in phase 1, if my math adds up, and then you got over to, when did you come to PPD? What year? 03? 04?
04, right before, right around when the campaign for the 04 election started. So
Yeah.
I got over there. I got on. I forget the letter, but it was Mike White's shift. Great good.
Yeah.
And well, let me kind of go back to WFO. Before I was before I left WFO, we were planning to do state funeral. Reagan was still alive, but everybody knew he was getting close to the end. So we were planning state funeral for for Reagan in D.C. The last one I think was Kennedy, years prior, and so we had old stuff, but it was all old, so we were just kind of doing from scratch, and then I come over to PPD and I'm like, yes, I don't have to do the state funeral. So I get over to PPD, and after about 3 months, Reagan dies, and John Bizzuto at the time, he was in 14 at PP or in WFO over the state funeral. He calls back over to PPD, says, "Hey, can you turn Wagner back to us?"
Oh no.
And I said, "Yeah, yeah."
No, no, that's terrible.
I thought I was out.
Oh, he did you dirty, man.
But I had to go back and do the TS for Reagan's funeral, which ended up being it was an awesome experience because that something like that very rarely happens.
Sure.
I was kind of after it was over, I was happy I got to do that.
Is there any story? Because I didn't do that. I was on PPD at the time. Is there any cool story that people might like to hear about? Is there anything interesting about that?
No, I mean, like I say, it was just long, long. Doing advances are long, but doing that was long, long days. The one thing that was crazy about that was the motorcades were like 80 cars long because everybody had to be in it. The Joint Chiefs of Staffs were in it, and each one of them had a separate car for themselves. And it was just crazy how long the motorcades were.
Yeah.
They all the Reagan stayed at the Blair House, so lining up the motorcade on Pennsylvania Avenue in front of the White House, it went all the way back to 17th Street and kind of circled around. It was so long, but
Dang.
nothing real crazy about it.
Yeah. But it was good.
I'm not going to get into that.
Well, I didn't hear what you said. Well, oh, I didn't hear what you said. What did you say?
Yeah, there's the story, but I'm
Oh,
sure.
yeah, it's okay. It's all good because hey, once this thing hits the internet, man, we can't pull it back. It's all good. So,
Yeah.
so then you're on Mike White shift because we ended up being on the shift together at the end, but I guess this was like pre-satellite and everything. So, you want to sort of explain to?
So the 04 election, I was on Mike White shift, and I like going out and doing advances. So I think I did like 14 airports during the campaign.
Wow.
First one I did, it took me the whole week to do it. But by the end of the campaign, last couple of airports, I could do an airport and I could pay.
Yeah.
And a lot of these airports that Bush was flying to were pretty small. He wasn't going to like Philly and Chicago. He was going to like Waterloo, Iowa, and Green Bay, Wisconsin,
Yeah.
places like that. So
Yeah.
it wasn't real hard. But I did like 14. I had one site. It was a layover hotel in Philly, but it was a lot of advanced work, not a lot of shift work.
Yeah. Did you before you went to TS, which you'll have to explain to the people what that is? Did you do a small satellite? Did you do chief of staff or NSA? I can't remember.
I did one of the Bush girls, Barbara.
Okay.
So I was down in South Africa when you and Handy were down there talking about it last week.
Yeah.
But I did 3 rotations.
Ah.
You're down there for 21 days, back for 21. Down there for 21 back. So did 3 rotations down there, and not real fun at first, but it got to be a pretty good gig. Once you kind of learn how things work down there, and I got to where I was comfortable driving on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
And then the other side of the car as well. But that was a pretty good gig. We did one rotation. She went to do volunteer work in Botswana and did a couple things up north. And Anthony at the time was the 14 on her detail.
Oh yeah.
And he had us doing a bunch of running around when she going to do advances when she was going to some of these places, and we ended up some crazy villages in Botswana and South Africa. So
who was the Richie? Who was the ADL? I can't remember.
I don't think we had one.
You didn't have one.
forget, I can't remember who it was. I know Vince Tutoni was, the logistics guy down there, so he stayed down there pretty much the whole time.
Well, and Bill was down there too. I remember Bill, wasn't he? He was there a lot when I was there.
Yeah, now that you mentioned, he might have been.
That's when I first really met him. He had his.
I just seemed to be always down there when Anthony was down there. So
Yeah, no, he had his hands full. I mean, there's a lot going on. You heard me and Hamby talking about it a little bit last week. I mean, and we were there in a support role, but I would have not wanted to do the logistics on that.
yeah, Vince wasn't he was too happy at first, but after a while, it got easier.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that people didn't know how to drive on the other side of the road, and when they make the turn, their tire would hit the curb, and he had to replace at least like 10 flat tires.
Hey, listen.
Try to cut it off, and they're not used to driving on that side of the road, and the tire hits the curb and it's flat, and
Yeah.
he get mad about that. But other than that, I think he got the hang of it.
I would say something right now, but I would upset my female audience, so I'm gonna let that one go. But get it. But without saying any names, do you remember? Because one guy got kind of in trouble. I think got sent home. He ended up retiring as a 15, so he ended up bouncing back. But didn't some people get in trouble because they were at the time? They were doing some shark diving trips, which I wanted to go do, but I'll get seasick and I just couldn't do it. So I don't think they're doing those anymore, where you can go down in the cage and see the great white. And there was some whale watching stuff. But one of the guys, and I don't want to say who it was, he got remember he got sent home. Do you remember that? It was kind of a weird story. I don't remember what happened. Do you remember that? It's probably best. It wasn't anything crazy. It was just a little odd, but it wasn't anything too bad. It wasn't like later with the Cartagena stuff. It wasn't anything like that. So okay, so yeah, South Africa was cool. So do you want to explain to people, like, because when you hear, oh, I was on PPD, which is Presidential Protective Division, you think you're working the leader of the free world every day, and you just can't do that because it's a humongous machine. I went to CAT, you went to TS. Do you want to explain what TS is?
Yeah, so TS is so I came off Barber's detail and went to TS, and TS is the transportation section, and they're the guys who do all the motorcade advances, do a lot of the driving, and they're just part of the whole moving process when the president goes somewhere. Uh, Funny story I'll give you for me on my very first day on TS.
Oh, I'm glad you're bringing it up because I was going to bring it up.
I figured you would, so I'll
Fall on the sword.
and bring it up. So very first day on TS, TS at the time was headquartered was based in headquarters, and Hugh Dunley was the 14. Never met Hugh before, so I'm in there early, and I think it's me and Dave, Cho, and some other guys, and I'm in there for maybe an hour, and they say, "Hey, you want to go over to the garage and pick up one of the parades? Parades is the beast. Uh, Pick up one of the parades and drive it back." Yeah, I want to drive it. So we go over in one of the follow-ups and pick it up, and we come back, and no one's telling me anything about how this thing steers or whatever. All they tell me is, "Hey, we can't bring it in the back of headquarters. We got to take it in that front uh, garage door in the front." So, all right, I go there, and there's so many dead spots in there that you can't see. You got to drive. If you're driving in regular traffic, you got to have a follow up to block traffic for you because you can't see side to side. When you're in a motorcade, you don't have to worry about that because everything's blocked off. So we'll bring it back, and I'm coming in, and I don't have an idea of the turning radius of this thing, so I swing out a little bit and try to come in that front garage, and the Ballards in the front, like every 5 feet, and I make that turn and see, oh, I'm not gonna make it, so I back up,
Oh,
try it again, don't make it, back up, try it again. But the fourth time, I went back in the back through the passenger side rear where the president would sit, and there's this old woman just standing in the sidewalk, just looking at one, just shaking her head, looking at the car, and the guy in the front says, "Hey, you're screaming on the ballards. Let's take it back. Let's take it back to the garage." Oh. So 2 minutes later, we're back over the garage. White racing stripe down the side of it. Yeah. They're all giving me crap, and then we come back to headquarters, and by that time he's there, and I walk in and introduce myself. Said, "Hey, Mr. Dunleavy, I'm Richie Wagner," and just scratched your car. Just scratched up the parade.
Hence the name Crash. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my introduction to TS, and
well, he was a great guy. I'm assuming he was pretty cool about it though.
Yeah, no, he was good about it. So.
He's a good guy.
But TS in general is an awesome experience because I kind of say you're like an assistant lead, but you got to know pretty much everything the lead knows. You got to know the EA plan. You got to know how to get to the sites and how to get to the security room or the safe house and all these other things. So it's a lot of knowledge you got to know when you're doing the advances, and you're really tied in with the lead, so that helps a lot.
Oh yeah, I would say that obviously each section likes to give each other grief. Like FLD, we always called fine living and dining, and then we always made fun of you guys for having to wash the cars because when you're at George W, I mean at the ranch, it was so dusty down there. I know I did not want to go to TS because I just did not want that responsibility, and I was afraid I would get lost. Even though you're not going to get lost, it's just a lot of pressure. And I'm a little bit of a knuckle dragger, so I'm like, no, I'm good. But I would argue that the TS agents are the most well-rounded because you're dealing with airlift ops, and like you said, during the advance, you're working with the mill aid and the lead and the safe house and the reload and blah blah blah. You have to know everything, and they're working with the load master on car planes. You guys are I think it's super hard when you're there, but I think when you come out on the back end of it, I think you're probably the most well-rounded agents.
Yeah, and you learn a lot, and I'm glad you brought. I forgot about the flights. I love. A lot of people have problems, don't like flying on the military, but I love flying on the military planes because you just pull up, strap everything down, you're gone. You don't have to worry about flying commercial, going through metal detectors and all this other garbage. And it was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah.
I got another quick story for TS. This is I got to be careful because this involves Mr. President Bush.
Is this about Tim?
About who?
Tim. We're not gonna say his last name. Tim. When he.
No. I know that story, but so it's Sunday. President Bush on the weekends. He likes to. Usually on Sundays, he goes to church at what's the name of it?
I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember.
I forgot the name of it. Anyway, he goes there and he would go run a bike afterwards. But anyway, this Sunday, all the parades were gone because he's going on a foreign trip. So they were all out to where the country was going to. So only options that left was the Suburbans or the downsides, the Angles. So Mr. Dunleavy Hugh would always make the call on what kind of car, and I'm sure he got it from higher up, what kind of car, but they didn't want to take him to church in a Suburban. So they decided to put him in a downside, the annuals for the day. So I just happened to be driving this day. So we pull up and I'm sitting in the car. And just sitting there waiting for him and Mrs. Bush to come down. Here on the speaker, trailblazer coming down in the elevator. So I'm sitting there, ready to go. And he gets in the passenger side, and I see him in the rear view mirror. And he's just kind of doing this, looking around, looking at it. And Mrs. Bush comes around and gets on the other side, and it's just the two of them in there. And he looks at her and he says, "Looks like we got the Lyndon Johnson version today." and she goes, "Well, this is what they drive me around in." And he goes, "I'm sorry." The ADL gets in, we take off. So I just thought that was.
Oh, bless up. I do remember that. Do you want to tell Do you want to tell the Tim story or not?
No, you can. I mean, you sound like you were.
Oh no, no, I wasn't in TS. I don't kiss and tell. It's not my story. I don't want
It was not mine either. So
to. We'll leave. Maybe I'll get. Huh?
go ahead and tell it, or if you think you're going to get him on here, then
No, we'll save it. I don't even know where he is. I don't. I'm gonna try to track him down. He's another hilarious human being. You will save that one for another time. So that wasn't your story and it wasn't mine. So that's. I just thought you might have been working that day, but obviously you weren't. So that's cool.
I don't know the full details of it, but I don't know.
Well, I think
I
his
just know.
yeah. I think his little bump up was worse than yours. I'll leave it at that. Oh gosh. Okay, so now we got to get through phase 3. So you wrap up your time at PPD. Just for the people that don't know much about it, uh, there's phase 1, which we talked about. Phase 2 is your protection. In your protection phase, you're kind of like pre-satellite, then your satellite, then your post-satellite. So coming out of TS, is that when you and I got on the shift together? Is that when we ended up on shift C with Glenn together?
Yeah, I think I was on there for about a year before you got on there, and and this was just when you're in the third part. Once you get off your satellites, you're basically then working the man.
Yeah.
So my shift at the time before you got in there was pretty senior.
Mm.
So I got stuck working press guy or number 4. And I didn't really get up to working the low numbers till very late in my career because
Yeah.
everybody on my shift was pretty senior.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I did get lucky doing is I was one of President's bike riders.
Yeah.
And there for the longest time I was the only rider on our shift. And there was a couple shifts, there's a couple months there where some of the other shifts didn't have any bike riders. So, Glenn really took care of me with that, and he would say, "Hey, Richie, like on the weekend, all you gotta do is come in and ride, and you're done." Or, the Wilson shift or some other shift needs you to ride,
Yeah.
and all you gotta do is ride. Go ride. So,
Mhm.
a lot of good times of
Yeah.
just going up to Camp David,
Yeah.
riding, and coming home. So that was a good thing.
Yeah.
A lot of good bike stories too, though.
Oh, I remember, and I remember you telling me about, because I was trying. I had been a shift runner, and then I found, oh, thank God he started riding bikes, because like running with him was hard too, and
Yeah.
and so I was like, I wanted to be a bike rider, because if you're gonna, if you're going to pay me to work out, I'm all about it. I don't want to be sitting there watching somebody else do that crap, right? So I remember you telling me all these stories. So I was excited about trying to reap some of the benefits you just talked about. But by the time I got there, there was multiple shift bikers, and so I would see you come and go. Glenn was taking, like, you would come in and work and go home, and I would go in my suit, work the man for church, change really quick, and he's like Clark Kent. That Joker changed so fast, and then we'd go down to Fort Belvoir or somewhere to ride or whatever, and then I'd have to keep working. I'm like, this is some bull crap. Richie just went home.
Yeah, well, that was when you came on, we had a couple riders in, so me, you, and Frank, good old Frank,
Oh gosh.
were the riders.
Oh yeah.
It was funny watching you and Frank ride. It was like watching two grizzly bears trying to ride a bike.
That's so stupid. You're such a bully. I think my first ride was at Camp David, and I was nervous because it's pretty rocky up there. It was like, I remember he would always try to drop, like on your first time out, whether it was running or biking. If he saw you and he didn't know your face, he would try to. I mean, he would go hard, um, and he would try to drop you. And I'm like, this dude ain't dropping me. So, but I can remember about the first 20 minutes in, my freaking heart rate was at like 172, and he goes, well, that's a good heart starter. I'm like, yeah, I'm about to pass out.
Yeah, I mean, he did that all the time. It didn't matter if you knew or not. He was always trying to drop you out
Yeah.
because he always liked to go to Mr. Trotta at the end and say, "Hey, Nicky, I got Scotty to drop out." you know.
Yeah.
Good story. We're down at the ranch, and this one time he bought some local newspaper guy. I don't know. I can't remember if he was from Waco or Crawford or whatever. Usually when he has people coming out there, he'll put them in the truck and drive them around. Well, this time he wanted to, ride around the bike. So it's the two of them, me and maybe one or two other agents riding around. And, this wasn't a hard ride. We were just kind of riding around. After a while, we started looking at the other guys like, what's the deal? Why are we going so slow? And it was just, he was showing this guy how to, about his ranch and his property. So his property, was like two tiers, like one up here and then the slope, and then there's another one down here. So, we eventually go down the slope and we're down at the bottom. And unbeknownst to us at the time, the ranch hand, I forget the ranch hand, former agent, had had bush hogged a new trail that nobody knew about. And there's only like two or three trails going up the hill, but this was brand new. So we come up on it and we're like, oh, this looks like it might be something different. So we come up on it, and at first it's not very steep. When you're going uphill, you got to have your gears right. So it's not very steep, and we're all just like, oh, this is easy. So about halfway up the hill, and it starts to get like that. So everybody starts dropping out. You know, 2 or 3 foot guys here, 2 or 3 guys here, and we get about 10 feet from the top, and I'm the last guy with him, and I drop out. So he's the only one at the top. So I guess he knew the slope of the hill near the top, so he made it. And he gets to the top and he looks back and he sees everybody dropped out.
Oh boy.
And once everybody gets up top, he was going to end it right there. But he told the guy he was with, he said, "Hey, if you just take that trail right there, it'll take you back to the house. You're good to go." And he was taking off. He was going to make us drop out again. I knew exactly what he was doing. So he took off, and I was like that. My front tires got that far from his back tire the whole time. And he looked back every 5, 10 minutes, see who's behind him. I'm like right there. And after about 30 minutes, he got mad. I said, "I'm going back."
Oh, he was competitive, wasn't he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we think John and I talked about that last week. Politics aside, wherever you stand on that, it didn't matter to me then. It doesn't matter to me now. But that guy he was a man. Is a man's man. Like he would be, biking very hard, running very hard, cutting wood. Like I mean, he'd go out and I remember all those times he'd go out and cut wood, and running a chainsaw. The leader of the free world's running a chainsaw. I'm like, should we be? Of course, I'm not going to say nothing, but I'm like, is this smart? And the answer was, it probably wasn't smart. But he was doing it. I mean, he's a man's man, and I definitely respected that. So.
Yeah, he worked on his ranch, man. He did. He had his ranch hand, but I think the ranch hand was more for the cows and everything. But anything that needed done around the ranch, he was doing it. So he was a man of his word.
Were you working the night we down at the pond fishing, and he stepped in the fire ants?
No, I was not.
Oh, I watched that firsthand. That man was in the pond about knee deep trying to get the ants off of him. It was funny. Oh, I kind of laughed. I did laugh a little bit at that one. Go ahead.
One more bike story. Do you remember Navy Bob?
Oh yeah, of course. He made fun of him every day.
Huh?
He called him Navy Bob every day. Made fun of him every day.
Yeah. So it's funny. I just connected with him on LinkedIn. But anyway, we always Navy Bob he's a brilliant guy. He went to the Annapolis, and he was like a nuclear engineer, and did a lot of nuclear stuff. So whenever President Bush would ride the bike, the middle aged were the bike mechanics. So if something broke down, they were there to fix it. So this one time up at camp, we were riding, and like it broke down like every 10 minutes. Something went wrong. The chain came off, or the tire was messed up, or whatever. So like after like 3 or 4 times, Bush was like, "What's wrong with this bike? Come, have the relay come out and fix this." So he started walking off, and Nate Bob came over, started working on the bike. We started giving him a bunch of crap. Said, "Hey, Nate Bob, that nuclear engineering degree is paying off for you."
Oh my gosh, dude!
Maybe Annapolis should have had like a bike mechanics
Dude. Oh golly. I remember the president being on him like white on rice. I mean, he would be mad when his bike broke.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I remember that. Oh yeah. Speaking of bike riding, uh, I remember going to the '08 Olympics in Beijing, and we were going to ride the Olympic course, which I was petrified, if I'm being honest. Um, and I remember it was so hard that he couldn't make, like, he just couldn't make some of the hills, which means I probably wouldn't have made them either. Um, because we were all kind of, he was a good bike rider, but he was probably 25 or 30 years older than us. So you know, we were in pretty good shape at that time and we could do all the things, but that was a hard course for it was the Olympic course. And I remember he got frustrated and he ended up walking most of it. And it was very anticlimactic because we couldn't do it. It was so freaking hard.
Yeah. Now I was there. I remember that. I was kind of mad because you and Frank got to ride it. And I was hoping to ride it, but Glenn said you guys would ride it. So I just remember you guys coming back after like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, saying we're done.
Yeah.
This thing's too hard.
It was terrible. I mean, it was so hard, and it was a lot of asphalt. It wasn't like the mountain biking we had done was at Fort Belvoir or different, whatever fort was up there, we were near, or Camp David or the ranch. It was true mountain biking. This was like an asphalt course, and I remember looking at it going, somebody's going to die out here. But it was so hard. He just gave up, and he never gave up. I mean, that guy never gave up, but he was like, he was smart enough to know that this is ridiculous. We can't do this.
Yeah, I remember seeing when we arrived at the course, just seeing kind of the start off hill, and it was like that. Okay, I'm glad Scott Prager ride today.
It was terrible. It was terrible. It was a little anticlimactic because I was looking forward to doing. I mean, I guess I can still say I rode it, but we pretty much pushed our bikes through most of it. I think I have a picture of us kind of coming through the finish line, which was, of course, basically a staged photo. Not really, but we had to get back to the car, so I mean, it was the flat part of the course, but it was, yeah, it was a lot harder than it looked like it was going to be. Um,
Yeah.
so we're kind of coming up on how much time we got, Luke? We're kind of getting late into this thing a little bit, but we're still good. Do you want to talk real quick? Because I really want to spend some time talking about PPD North, which we called PPD New York City when Trump got in. But before that, let's touch on. So we wrapped up your PPD time. Then you went to phase 3. Phase 3, for you don't know, is like you either get promoted or you go to another assignment. I think, did you go to headquarters at that time? I can't remember.
Yeah, I came off. I went to headquarters. I was in CID for about a year.
So you did a little purgatory time.
And yeah, I was a region guy for about a year, and about that time, that's when uh, you came off and you went to London.
Yep. Oh, that's right. You've
You
been to
guys
Frankfurt. How
went.
could I forget? Yeah.
You guys went. About that time, another guy in headquarters got promoted to Frankfurt, a real good friend. And I told him whenever he left, hey, if you ever get an opening in Frankfurt, keep him in mind.
Yes.
Well, about 2 or 3 months later, he calls me up and said, hey, were you serious about that? I said, yeah. And he said, well, the guy just quit, which is odd. No one ever quits a foreign office.
Who quit?
This guy quit out of Frankfurt and said, hey, if you want it, let me know.
Wow.
We'll try to get you in here.
Wow.
That's how he and you ended up overseas.
Did he quit the job or just quit the office?
He quit the job.
Who was it? You remember?
Yeah, I think he went to like NCIS or something like that.
That's crazy. I never heard of that. So yeah, I went to London. You went to headquarters, and then I remember you calling me saying, "Hey, dude, I'm getting Frankfurt." I'm like, "Holy!" Because our wives, for people that don't know, are our best friends. And the first time I met Richie's wife before I met Richie because we had the same realtor and we were house hunting. Backstory a little bit, and we went over. She's like, "Oh, I want you to meet these people. They're agents. They just moved in. You were working, either an evening shift or a midnight shift, whatever, for WFO." And she took us over to your house, and we met LaDonna at the door with William in her arms, and then Ryan was like 2, and then he grabbed my fingers and started cutting cartwheels on my legs. So Elizabeth and LaDonna hit it off right off the bat. So to say that she was excited when you guys got Frankfurt is an understatement, because we got to visit each other, and those were just some great times.
Yeah, it was awesome. like I said, we took vacations together. You know, went to the Vatican during Easter. You know, I know neither one of us are Catholic, but still, you know, to be at the Vatican during Easter and hearing the Pope, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah. And then, of course, my favorite place over there is Garmisch.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one place we went to more than once. Everything else is, you know, you go once and you go see something else.
Sure.
Orange was one place we went to more than once.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but you know, I, I'm going to show the pictures at the end here when we're done. But so I forgot to touch on the China trip.
Yeah.
Back on PPD.
Yeah.
So I'll explain when we get to the end and bring up the pictures.
All right. Well, be nice. uh,
uh, yeah,
just
so I'll just quickly touch on overseas. I know you want to get to the New York.
no, that's kind of I totally forgot about Frankfurt. I don't know how I forgot about Frankfurt. That's great, man.
Yeah, so I did 4 years in Frankfurt, which was awesome. You know, at the time we covered 14 countries as a regional office, and it was an awkward territory. You know, we had Germany, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Austria, and then we had like Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia, and then all the stands that nobody cared about, like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Kyrgyzstan. So when I got there, those were my countries. And, you know, I don't think anyone ever went out there because nothing ever happened for us down there and out there. So but I wanted to go. I just wanted to go. Say I'd been at Kazakhstan or Tajikistan. So I got out there, and there was an FSN at Tajikistan. He was just the real go getter. And you know, I met with him the first day, and once I got there, we became pretty good friends. And he's always was always throwing stuff at me and say, "Hey, you want to come do this? Hey, you want to come do this? You want to come do this?" And he would introduce me to like the Uzbek foreign forensic guys or the Uzbek National Bank and Uzbek this, Uzbek that, and you know, I was doing counterfeit presentations left and right out there. Uh, which is pretty cool because that was about the time the new $100 bills getting ready to come out, and everybody wanted to know what that was about. So they were all receptive to that. So you know that was a pretty good time up there. And then you know everybody left, all the senior guys left, and I got to come back and have the better countries of you know Poland and Czech. So
Yeah.
that was nice. I got to take your place one time
Oh,
the
yes.
for the what was it, the Nobel Prize.
Oh,
You got the COVID before COVID was.
yeah. I had the I think was it the swine flu, the bird flu, whatever it was that year. But of course, it was a Democrat. It was a Democrat in office, so nothing, nothing to see here. Keep going. Meanwhile, I'm in my hotel room down for the count. They had to go to the bullpen and pull Richie over. I was pissed to go. That was in Oslo. I think it was Oslo, wasn't it?
Oslo, yeah,
And I remember it was
yeah,
it was it was butt cold. It was snowing, and you came and I was quarantined in my room for I don't know how long, 3 or 4 days, and the only thing that was on TV in English was Baywatch, and I was about ready to strangle David Hasselhoff. That was that was terrible. But I mean, I was sick as a dog, and I do remember at the end of that, felt just good enough. Well, I think we went out and got a piece of pizza or something toward the end of the trip. I think we went out and got something to eat finally. But man, that was rough.
yeah, yeah. I know. I went down to. I had to get something from him, but it was like, knock on the door, stand back like 10 feet, just sit on the door, sit on the floor there.
Ah, it's terrible. Yeah, some good times for sure. I would say, people have asked me, what's your best assignment? And, they think I'm going to say Hawaii. And Hawaii was a good assignment too, but it was right during COVID. So that kind of put a damper on things. And of course, it was just me and Elizabeth. And that was great too. Just, we were empty nesters, but the kids were so far away. I would say for me, my best assignment was probably with the totality of everything, family life and everything, was probably London. And I'm sure Frankfurt ranks high for you. Obviously, I took the job to work the leader of the free world. That's what I got to do. My time on PPD was probably my favorite time, like working the man and being a supervisor on PPD. Those are probably my best assignments. But the overall big picture for me, for family life and everything, was probably London.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Same thing here. Frankfurt was good. Obviously, you come on to work PPD, work the main of the BPD, but the overseas assignment was something I never really thought, even thought about doing.
Yeah.
It never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
When I didn't think Ladonna would want to do it,
Yeah.
but then when you guys got it, and she says, "Hey, let's try to do a 4-month assignment," and I'm like, "Okay, let's give it a shot." I knew London would have never came back up because you just got that one, and I
Yeah.
think the other guys who were out there were fairly new as well. So when my buddy got promoted there, I thought, okay, this is my way in, and I just kind of lucky got into it.
Well, a lot of those things, as you know, are timing, right? So it's like if there's not a spot, there's not a spot. And just like yourself, when I was due up to leave PPD, and I was tired, man. I had done right at 6 years, and because Cat had broken away and become SOD, they told me I was going to have to do 2 years. I was supposed to do 1 year, and they said, "Are you going to do two?" And I'm like, "I don't want to do two years. As I don't want to do 7 years of protection. Most guys are doing 4.5 to 5 years. I'm going to have to do 7 years." So I can remember being at the ranch and checking email, and it came out, and I called Elizabeth, and I was like, "Hey, I don't think I'll get this, but I'm competitive because my timing. I'm coming off PPD. Timing might work out. What do you think?" The kids were in grade school, so for me, it was like a one shot deal, and it worked out. So
Right. No, it was awesome. I wouldn't change it for anything.
yeah, it was great. Yeah, I remember coming over and doing the Christmas markets and all that stuff, and the Vatican trip. Like you said, we're not Catholic, we're Protestant and whatever. But like to say you went to the Vatican on Easter and saw the Pope, I mean, that's kind of cool. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was it's got to be a highlight of the trip of your time over there.
yeah, it's good stuff. All right, so let's get into after that. You come back, Conus, and I think you're back in WFO. I don't know exactly where you might have done a headquarters thing. I can't remember, but I remember when I got promoted late, super late, and I was very bitter about that for a long time. And I know you probably were too, because we both got it late. But now I kind of wear it as a badge of honor because I felt like I was just an NCO, and some guys on the job have been supervisors longer than they were humps. And I think you and I were very well rounded and did checked a lot of boxes. Not many people get to go overseas, and I think that was really, I always sort of chased experiences. I never chased the carrot. You know what I mean? As far as the promotions go. I wanted to go do the things I wanted to enjoy at the time, and I think we had that in common. So I remember getting promoted, and I was dying. I mean, it was an awesome assignment. I want to be very careful every time I say this. I'm very careful how I say it because I don't want people to put words in my mouth. The Trump family is amazing. They're not the problem. PPD is a machine in and of itself, whether it was the Bush girls, the Obama girls, the Trump grown adults, totally different ball of wax. So it's not the protectees that were the problem. It's just trying to protect adults in New York City was just something we had never done. And I was talking to Neil, and I'm like, "Brother, I'm dying. I got to have some help." And he said, "Pick them." And I said, "Does it have to be a PPD person?" And he said, "No, it can be anybody." I'm like, "I need Wags. Get him up here." Because our wives are best friends. We were friends. We'd worked together. And so you came up to New York, and man, for the first time in about 3 or 4 months, I was able to take a sigh. And I really appreciate you coming. Thank you for coming up and helping me.
Yeah, no, it's just funny because about that time, like you said, you just got promoted. I wasn't promoted yet. Uh, it was real late in the career when we got it, and I was thinking, you know, it's probably not going to happen. I was just kind of looking to finish up and do my last 2 years or whatever, and get out. And at the time, I coached rec basketball at the time, and I was at me and another guy, Chris. Uh, we coached together, and we just had a game that day, and I was at his house, and you called me up, and I go into his back room, and you say, "Hey, you want to come up to New York and help me out, do my admin stuff?"
I was dying, brother.
And I was looking to get out of WFO at the time, so I said, "Yeah, you know what? Let's do it. Let's see what I can do up there." So I took it, and I'm glad I did because it was a great experience. Like you say, I like chasing the experience more than the title, but I loved every minute of it up there. And before we get into New York stuff, I want to echo something Al said. Um, you know, when he said, he came home one time and his daughter, said, "Dad, you look angry or sound angry," and I'm like, you know what? I know exactly what he's talking about because every day I was up there, and it wasn't because of Trump's or because of John or anything. It's just living in New York City. But every day up there, I could feel myself just getting angrier and angrier all the time.
Mm.
But it had nothing to do with the job or the Trumps. It was just living in New York City.
Yeah, everything's harder there, buddy. Everything. Just getting to work was tough. I mean, just getting to work was a nightmare. And then taking them all over the place in motorcades was fun. Uh, I mean, that was kind of
We're dropping off
sarcasm.
every weekend because of one of the limos were breaking down.
Oh, yeah, we may or may not have heard about that. He's we got an ear. I'd get an earful. I'm like, oh, just you got to take it on the chin, man.
Hey, what can you do? It's an armored vehicle riding around in pothole New York City streets, so stuff's gonna break. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but it is what it is. But no, came up, like I say, helped you with admin, did the schedule, logistics, all that stuff. So I'd work my 8 and then come back to the hotel room and do another 4,
no,
just doing paperwork. So
yeah. It
which is
was,
fine because I'm in New York. What else am I going to do? I come back, I'm just going to sit in my hotel room, so might as well just do paperwork.
yeah, it was a tremendous help. I had you and Steve and Tom. There's a couple different guys, but you guys were my core guys, and yeah, man, you were a lifesaver, that's for sure. Because I mean, I was making it, but I felt like I was like Al said it best. I was like on a treadmill. You got the treadmill wide open, and you're just running as fast as you can, and you can't sustain that. Especially with the temps, because we were getting guys every 2 weeks or some shift leaders wouldn't give you a guy for 2 weeks, which I didn't understand at the time, and it would make me mad. But then when I left and I ran CSU for a year, I was like, I can't afford to give you a guy for 2 weeks. So I totally understood it then. But your schedule was just like a Ouija board. It was terrible. It was all over the place. And then operational tempo was off the charts. So when you came up and helped me, you were a lifesaver, dude.
Well, it also helped a lot when we started getting some permanent guys instead of
Yeah,
getting we had to a lot of those New York guys came over and a couple of the guys from outside New York.
yeah,
Even we had like 6 permanent guys and I mean it sound like a lot, but when you got permanent guys, you can plug them in to do stuff all the time. That really helps a lot. Instead of we got John Smith this week and we got Larry Jackson next week or whoever. And
yeah.
you always mixing names. You got to give them logistics.
Oh,
You're staying here. You're doing that. Whereas opposed to someone who's permanently up there, you just give them a schedule. They know what to do.
yeah. I can't forget Eric, our good, not Eric Trump, another Eric, who's still on the job. Uh, but Eric was another huge help, and I can remember the first time I saw him put out the daily logistics, and I thought, "Holy cow!" I forgot. Like, I thank God he did. He just did it. You know what I mean? There's just no way one guy. At some point, something's gonna you're gonna forget something, because we had no admin help. You had to do the schedule. You had to do the travel. You had to do the cars. You had to do the weapons. You had to do the job. You actually had to physically be present somewhere. And then you had to go back to your hotel room. I was living in an apartment, and start pecking on the keyboard. It was a good assignment. It was a very challenging assignment. The most challenging assignment I've ever had. And I was an older guy. I mean, I was a senior guy. This wasn't like we were young. I mean, we were very senior, and it was still very challenging. I thought it was very challenging.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I agree 100%.
And then I remember I saw a picture the other day of us in the conference room at the hospital when Laura was having the baby. Do you remember that?
I remember. I don't remember the picture, but yeah, I remember that. I mean, I remember when the day she went into labor and we were all like,
Yeah.
everybody's at the limo and going to the hospital, and
Yeah.
once she gets there, we kind of softened up a little bit. But it was like everybody's right there. It was like 3 or 4 car motorcade in the hospital.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Because at the time, when she was pregnant, I thought it was a historical thing for us because I didn't think we'd ever had a protectee that was pregnant or was going to have a baby. So I reached out to the historian.
Yeah.
And asked him. I said, "Hey, have we ever had a protectee that was pregnant?" And he's like, "You know what? I don't think so. Let me do some research." And he got back with me a couple of weeks later, and I think it was Ford's daughter when Ford was in office. I think it was either Ford or Nixon. I think it was Ford. His daughter was pregnant once. So
Yeah.
outside of that, she was only the second protectee we ever had that was pregnant.
Yeah, well, whoever the other person was didn't do it in New York City. I know that much. And I'll never forget, I was laying on the couch watching The Sopranos, trying to rest for just a little bit, had a little downtime, and my phone rang, and it was Mike. And he's like, "Hey, Scott, it's Mike." Just very calm, just super calm. Laura's water just broke. She's in the bathroom at wasn't Panera, whatever restaurant he said. I'm like, I couldn't process what he was saying. He was throwing so much at me so fast, but he was very calm. I'm like, I'm sorry, and I sat up. I said, "Did you say Laura's water broke and she's in the bathroom where?" He made her go in the bathroom and to make sure. I was like, "You crazy rascal!" And then we had Marksman was up north at campfire doing his annual monthly meeting. We had to get him home. It was a lot going on, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was good times.
It was good times, good memories, man, good memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, good memories. Is there anything else you want to touch on with New York City wise before we wrap that part up? That was a highlight of our career too, and it always is nice to work with friends too. Made it a little easier.
Yeah. No, I think we hit it all there. I mean, we could go into little stuff, but it'd be another hour.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we'd be here all night if we talked about New York. Um, did you want to show some? Did you want to show the people some pictures? You said you had on your iPad. You better be nice. You better be nice.
And you're gonna like this.
Oh boy.
So I'll show you, some of the stuff beforehand.
Don't forget, I have the power of editing this, so just take a chill.
All right, let me see if I can pull it up here. Uh, all right, so remember we talked about the trip to Italy?
Yes.
Here's me and you and all our kids on the Spanish Steps.
Oh yes. Look at that. All boys and one girl.
Yeah, she was happy though.
Oh yeah. As she kept them in line.
Yeah, all right, so there's that. Okay, now I can't get out of this. Something happened.
Operator error.
Yeah. All right, so talked about the China trip.
Yeah.
So, can picture the shift here. Did a little sightseeing one day, and here we are at the Great Wall.
Oh yeah. Look at Frank. Look at the boys. Mike, Hannibal Lecter. What was his real name? John.
John,
Yeah.
Chris,
There you are. I see you. Oh,
looks good there. Look how skinny you are.
I know. That's a few pounds ago, brother. All that mountain biking I used to
Yeah,
do. Golly.
exactly. So here's a good one. You'll like this one. Do a little cultural appropriation here.
See, this is not making a cut. What's the matter with you? Can't do that these days. Hey, we were in country. It's legit.
Yeah. And anyone who was on the details or shift at the time, this guy right here was the Marine Mill.
Yeah, he was a good. I don't remember his name. He was a good dude.
He's photobombing you there.
He used to mountain bike with us. He didn't get Bush didn't make fun of him like he did Navy Bob.
Yeah. Okay. One more picture here, and I'll quit boring everybody. So, like I said, me and you were both on a shift. So, when you're on Air Force One and you're coming out the back, like get all the other guys. We're usually first ones off, so we come in and the press area, and you make friends with some of the press, not all of the press, but some of them. They'll take good pictures of you and send it to you. So here's me and you getting off the back of Air Force One. Guy took a picture of us.
Back it up. Oh yeah, look at them young boys, stallions. Couple of stallions right there, boy. Oh my goodness, that's many moons ago, Richie.
Yeah, so, yeah. Oh well.
Many moons. But hey, we're still on this side of the dirt, buddy. So listen, right before we wrap it up, you want to tell real quick about like you got promoted and then you moved into retirement. You want to touch on any of that? You don't have to. You can. Whatever you want to do.
Sure, I'll do a quick one. So, I came off PPD and I went to CID again, and I thought I was just going to coast out, but I got lucky and finally got my 14. Ended up in asset forfeiture, which was a great gig. And I was there for about a year and a quarter, a year and 3 quarters, and I finally started hanging up. And I've kind of been beating around the bush, beating different places since I retired. I took a job out in Kansas, Wichita, Kansas. Got corporate security with probably the biggest company in Kansas. And I won't say the name, but you can probably figure it out. It's not that hard. But then I came back. Then didn't work out. I came back. Uh, got a job as an annuitant. Did that for about 8 months, and then I figured I'd go find something closer to where I live, which I do, and now I'm a contractor with a bunch of other guys. There's like 50 of us work for a company called Artfield, and that's where I'm at now.
That's awesome. Contractor. Yeah. Well, that's good, man. Listen, I know we kind of got into this late tonight. Thanks for being patient with us. We run a little bit behind. Thanks for not falling asleep. I probably would have fallen asleep and not been able to. If you were interviewing me, I'd have probably slept right through it. But thanks for being patient. You're a good sport. Thanks for your time. And you got to come down here and see us, man. We got you. I know where you live. I love it up there too. But you got to come down here to God's country. You might like it.
Hey, I would, but she's got to be around the kids. The the middle one's up here as a Fairfax firefighter, so
Yeah.
we're here for now. But we'll be down. We'll be down a couple months for the wedding.
Oh yeah. We'll have to have a Coke or two, have a drink or two, maybe.
At your house too, anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's gonna be fun, man. We'll have a good time. Well, hey man, thanks for being here, Richie. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Take care, buddy.